Uh, Good morning, everyone. I'm a bit early. Partly, I was thinking that, say hello to you those of you who might have been here, waiting for a 6:45 beginning, and so warm greetings. And I received about equal note messages about the 6:45 beginning that we had last week with 45-minute meditation and the 30-minute. And I thought it was wonderful to have the longer time, and I know it was challenging for some of you. And I'll think about some other way to maybe have earlier, longer maybe sittings, and maybe in a month or so when my family responsibilities lighten up some, maybe we could do some of these mornings, have a second sitting at maybe at 8 o'clock. And that way, maybe that can be 45 minutes. And that way some of you can, who've been coming and getting used to this 30-minute sitting, can stretch a little bit and discover the benefits of a longer sitting. And perhaps we're getting close to the second year mark for these 7 a.m. sittings. And the second year, I mean the beginning of the second year, 1 year anniversary. And so it's on my mind about how to support many of you to kind of take this Dharma, a step or two further, building on what we've been doing for this time. So we'll have a community meeting at some point, and maybe have a chance to talk about this and such things. So anyway, I just wanted to say hello, and we'll start up again in a couple of minutes. That's when more people arrive. So it's 7 a.m. here in California, and locally I can offer you a good morning and happy to be together, and good day and greetings for everyone around the globe who are participating. And the kind of the theme for this guided meditation is balance, and finding a balance when we sit. And the balance is, I liken it a little bit to finding the midpoint of a rowboat, maybe a fairly stable, wide rowboat, but still a rowboat that and finding the midpoint where there's the least amount of kind of center of gravity kind of the boats, and to stand there with our legs firmly on the floor of the boat and keep our balance. And maybe our upper part of our torso is maybe not moving so much, but our legs are in fact kind of going with the rocking of the boat. Maybe it's a gentle rocking, but still we're constantly making small adjustments. And the stronger we are in our legs and torso and things like that, maybe the easier it is to keep our balance. So in meditation, we're also developing a kind of inner strength and a skill at staying balanced, both to recognize about when we get off balance and to recognize and to have the strength to kind of stay, to come back to balance, stay in balance. And the way it works in meditation is, the most simple way, is to stay balanced without any kind of movement towards our experience or any movement away, any wanting or not wanting, any movement in which we get pulled by experience, or pulled into our thoughts, any movement pushed by the thoughts or pushed by experience of what's happening. And rather, both physically, but also, in the heart, the mind, we stay balanced. We stay in that center place where there's a strength and a stability that wisdom can operate and clear seeing can operate, that we lose when we start getting involved in things or we start rejecting things. And staying in that midpoint of the boat of our life. And of course, we'll go a little bit off. And so part of the equanimity in practice is to appreciate that, of course, just like in a rowboat, we'll get pulled this way and that way and get picked up, get involved in all these things. But hopefully not so much. And hopefully with very gentle, maybe even loving course corrections. No, stay here, come back. See clearly what's happening so we can stay balanced. Come back to that peaceful place, the still place, the balanced place inside, the dynamic balance, the dynamic peacefulness. Don't think that you have to rest on your meditation laurels and just stay peaceful without a kind of being engaged, alert, mindful to stay here. So with that as an introduction, to assume a posture that maybe manifests a degree of balance. And one way to begin then with balance is to rock back and forth. If you're sitting upright, maybe sway back and forth, and then make smaller and smaller kind of sways, kind of looking for a place of balance with the torso, balance on the sitting bones, balance of your weight against whatever support is being received. And then to kind of feel up the spine, up the torso, and to make small adjustments, to feel a sense of being everything's balanced. Partly that means that the weight of our torso, kind of it's all stacked up in a way that feels aligned with some center line within, so that we're not leaning forward. Part of our weight is in front of that center of gravity, and some of it's not behind. And so I'm looking for that balance. And to do something where the hands and arms feel balanced as well, so that they're not pulled too far forward or pulled too far down, so the shoulders are being pulled. If you're sitting, you might be able to pull your hands back from the knee a little bit, or sometimes putting a cushion or something on top of your thighs or your ankles, so the hands are held up more, can feel more balanced and support a balance of the torso. And then to close the eyes, and with the eyes closed, sitting still, again feeling the body from the inside. and feeling where there is balance, where there is stability in the body, where there's a kind of maybe even groundedness of your body against whatever supports you upright, whatever supports your weight. To feel that stability or groundedness, rootedness, and to feel whatever seems stable within, physical stability. Some people might feel it in the lower torso, around the hips, pelvis. Some people might feel it lower back or in the belly, or maybe in the area of the solar plexus, behind it, above the diaphragm. And maybe can be a feeling of some stability as you relax your shoulders, soften, and maybe a stability in the shoulders supporting the neck, maybe in the back of the neck, in the way that that area supports the weight of the head. And there's a way in which tension and holding, even if it's stable tension, is a kind of agitation. And greater stability and balance is found by relaxing some of the extra tension in the body, softening the muscles of the face. These are muscles that are sometimes constantly engaged in daily life to express ourselves, to communicate ourselves to the world. Smiles and frowns and scowls and fears held in the muscles of the face. And it's a compassionate thing for the face on the exhale to let the muscles ease up, not have to work so much. Around the eyes, the forehead, jaw. And the same thing with agitation and restlessness in the chest, if there is some. And relaxing in the chest, softening, easing up. Without the kind of instability that comes from resistance. Holding ourselves at our life at bay. And then softening in the belly. A kind of release of the weight of the belly. Letting it maybe that weight release downward. To create some inner stability in the lower torso. then to feel whatever restlessness, agitation, energetics there is in the mind. Maybe in the area where we have the brain, or anywhere for you it's associated with your mental, emotional activity. As you exhale, relaxing the mind, relaxing the mental activity, slowing things down in the mind. Softening the mind and feeling the softness of the mind. And then gently noticing as we sit here for a minute or so, any movements towards or away, any being pulled into something like our thoughts, or any kind of movement of recoiling or pulling back, or being pushed back. Any wanting, any not wanting. And just simply notice that, and perhaps allowing it to be there if it's there. Feeling it, sensing what it's like for the body, the mind, to have this movement of for and against. And feel how maybe there's not much balance there, or that there's some imbalance. And then the next couple of exhales, see if you can release any for or against, wanting and not wanting. Release it enough to feel that your inner life, mind, heart, comes to a balanced stability, or comes into a little bit more of a balanced stability than it was when it wasn't stable. And then to really now experience the breathing body, the body breathing. Almost like the awareness gently lands onto the body breathing. And this is where we feel the gentle rowboat, where the gentle waves are breathing in and out. The movements of the body expanding and contracting. The air moving in and out through the nostrils. And if it's easy enough, to establish a kind of gentle, soft stability, steadiness with the breathing. And as you feel any other pull and push, moving for or against experience, wanting and not wanting, keep finding your stability. Keep coming back to the breathing. Let the breathing support you. Let the breathing be the place that you stand or feel, so you're not so easily pulled into for and against. Staying balanced in the body, body breathing, with the mind having landed and on the breathing, the body breathing, not easily pulled into wanting and not wanting. And if there are little movements of wanting and not moving, it's okay. Can be some kind of, that's the place we use to find back to balance. Here, breathing. Centered on the breathing body. And as we come to the end of this sitting, I have a question for you, and that is, how might your kindness, your love, your compassion benefit from having an inner stability, an inner balance? How can kindness and love and compassion benefit from not being pulled into, in some way, reacting for or against, without being pulled into desires or pulled into aversion? To be able to open our hearts, care and goodwill towards others, while remaining balanced, without wants and not wants, without anxiety, creating imbalance. Perhaps even feeling a stability in the kindness, the goodwill, the love, the compassion. And maybe you can imagine that with whatever balance, stability, calm you have now, sitting here, can you bring to mind someone for whom you have friendliness, goodwill, compassion, love? And imagine sitting together, walking together, and for you to remain balanced and stable in your goodwill, in your friendliness. Not pulled into some of the complexities that can exist in these relationships of wanting and not wanting, protecting or fear, holding back or giving too much. Our friendliness, our goodwill is one of the great resources we have. It can be one of the foundations for Buddhist practice. And may it be that all beings find a way to be balanced, stable in their happiness and safety, peacefulness. May all beings find stability, steadiness, strength in their goodwill, their heartfelt care for others. And may we, in our balanced stability for goodwill and friendliness, contribute to make it easier for others to be that way. May it be that the benefits of this meditation is something that we bring into the world of our daily life, that we're ready to share and stay close to those benefits. May all beings be happy. May all beings everywhere be free. topic for this talk is the equanimity factor of awakening. And it's the seventh of the seven factors of awakening. And over the last week, I've been talking about the earlier factors. And we're talking about these seven factors of awakening in the context of the practice of anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing, where we're mindful of the mind, that we start experiencing the mind as we breathe in, experiencing the mind as we breathe out. And so we've kind of taken our time to understand some of the things we can start experiencing when we experience the mind. The word citta, the Pali word for mind, C-I-T-T-A, is often translated as mind state. And it's not the mind as a thing, like the brain is kind of a physical thing, but rather it's the way in which we experience our interior life, our mental life, as a whole. And rather than the particular details of different activities of the mind that goes on, particular thoughts, feelings, impulses, intentions, it's the whole of the mind that kind of, and how we experience the whole is personal and contextual and depending on the different factors of the mind that come together. And it sounds a little bit strange to say this, but the state of the mind, how we experience the state of the mind, it depends on the state of the mind, or how we experience the shape of the mind, or how we experience this totality of the mind is based a little bit on the state of mind, or which mental factors are strongest. And but as we open to the mind and feel it, it has different characteristics that we can feel. Now, it takes a lot of stability and really settled in the practice to start feeling this whole mind and the mood or the mind that might be there. But as this practice gets strong, there are seven factors, that qualities, characteristics, that become predominant in the state of the mind that we can experience. Different ones of them at different times, and sometimes kind of all of them together. And these are the seven factors of awakening: mindfulness, investigation, effort, joy, tranquility, samadhi, and equanimity. And these all have different functions. They work on different ways. As a state of mind, mindfulness creates real stability. And it's kind of like, I would say differently, the mind doesn't waver. It's not agitated and jumping around. When mindfulness becomes a little bit more, or awareness becomes a little more a state that's present, rather than something that we have to keep renewing by keep making the effort, having the intention to be mindful. So there's unwaveringness of attention. Investigation, or this ability to see clearly, to look up and see clearly, more intimately our experience, not by analyzing it or probing, but by like tuning into the frequency of the radio and not having any more static, just really feeling it and sensing more fully that what's going on. That function is really important for the process of liberation. They say that's the most important of the seven factors for liberation, because we have to get things really into focus. And then the effort factor that can see the difference between wholesome and unwholesome is really key in not being trapped by the unwholesome, but finding a certain kind of healthy escape or stepping away from into the wholesome. Joy provides a deep satisfaction, a deep contentment, bodily and physically, that is really kind of feels good. And then the last three, tranquility and samadhi and equanimity, are particularly useful, and so the joy factor as well. These are all feelings of pleasure, a well-being, positive feelings that we can have that are tremendous support for practice in helping free us from some of our addictive patterns, some of our attachments to pleasure, attachments to all kinds of things, where we think we're searching for happiness by having more money or more status or more relationships or more something that's outside of us. And that drive can be addictive at times, or the strong ways in which fear operates from us, inside of us, that itself compels us to act certain ways and be certain ways, and anxiety, phobias. And there's something about being settled in these positive factors, these states of mind of joy, tranquility, samadhi, and equanimity, that is so nourishing, feels so wholesome, that feels like such a source of well-being, that it creates a reconditioning factor. It conditions us in new ways, rather than being conditioned by fear or a feeling of lack or feeling of being deprived or feeling unsafe, or all kinds of ways which life has kind of conditioned us to be. We're starting to recondition ourselves, and then it becomes easier to begin letting go of some of the dysfunctional ways in which we might be living. And so rather than only relying on mindfulness, seeing clearly, recognizing what's happening, to free us from some of our conditioning, which is very hard to only rely on mindfulness, but to really have the mindfulness support this process of settling and stability and growth in the Dharma, to begin eventually, and eventually is an important word here so we don't get impatient, start kind of getting nourished by these wholesome qualities and way of being. And the last of these is equanimity. And equanimity, for many people who are unfamiliar with this idea in Buddhism, will think that equanimity is kind of maybe aloof or kind of dry or kind of not really relevant for having a good time in life. And maybe even not relevant for making ourselves safe in this world. If we're equanimous, how do we make ourselves safe? And I think before I became a Buddhist practitioner, I don't think I used the word equanimity in any kind of way in my vocabulary. I probably knew what it meant somewhat, but it had no relevance for how I lived my life or how I thought about myself. But certainly with practice and meditation, equanimity has become a more and more important quality, something that I recognize and appreciate, kind of as a state, as a kind of feeling that courses through my whole body, a kind of stability and clarity and openness and a kind of a freedom that comes with equanimity. And it's considered to be one of the most sublime states of being that a person can experience. It's kind of considered the crown jewel of the 7 factors of awakening, which themselves are the crown jewels. So, that's just letting you know that if your practicing develops over time, maybe you'll start feeling how special this equanimity factor is, and the rich emotional aspect. It's not indifference or aloofness or dryness. And the equanimity factor, it belongs to a family of concepts and states that is championed by Buddhism. And one of them is this equanimity, which is upekkha in Pali. Another one is a mouthful of words that means literally something like the etymology of it, standing in the middle of it all, standing in the middle of this. And that's often seen as a sense of balance. And then there's a word samma, which maybe is cognitively related to our word same. I'm not sure about how these languages connect. They're distant relatives of each other, English and Pali. And samma can mean something like even. It can mean also like the same, but even, balanced also, but an evenness of mind. And it's related to samma is related to the word samena, S-A-M-E-N-A, which means either impartiality, or sometimes it's translated as justice. So impartiality, that like the impartial justice, the impartial judging of things, is considered a really high ideal. And to treat people in a certain kind of impartiality doesn't mean indifference. It means that we treat everyone kind of equally. And it's kind of the equal, so it's sama is equal or sameness. So an evenness of mind, an impartiality of mind, a balance of heart and mind, balance of body and mind, and equanimity. And for now, I will just say briefly a little bit about equanimity, and then pick up this topic tomorrow, and because it's so important. And the word for equanimity, upekkha, U-P-E-K-K-H-A, is the etymology of the word is actually quite useful here. It literally means something to have an overview, to have a bird's eye view of what's happening. So it involves a kind of wisdom that comes from seeing how things are. So it's a kind of a wisdom factor. It's not just something that arises because the quality of some kind of inner balance is strong, but rather it also comes from the strength of mindfulness, investigation, all these other factors, and then being able to not be pulled for or against things, not quickly become impartial, not quickly be reactive to experience, but have a stability that allows us to have the overview, and wisdom operates. Wisdom can see that, oh, that's being pulled into things. I don't need to do that. That's my anger. I don't have to pick it up and get involved. That's pain. I know about pain. I've meditated with pain for a long time, and I know I'm better off not getting pulled into its orbit and preoccupied by it or reactive to it. And so there's a little bit of wisdom operating with this overview, having the big picture of how it works. And so it belongs to the aspect of mindfulness where we can begin observing what's going on. It's a little bit like stepping back and having the big picture, or being up in a hilltop, maybe looking down, or the experience that I had, this wonderful experience that was very valuable for me many years ago. It was a second year in college, first time I was living with the college roommates in a little apartment. And the little apartment had a deck out the living room. And one day I was out in the deck with the living room sliding door closed, and two of my roommates were having an animated, I think a friendly enough, animated conversation in the living room, and I couldn't hear anything they were saying. But I could see the animated way they were, and I could feel how, I was kind of delighted seeing them, but I could feel how I wasn't being pulled around by what they were saying and how they were. I wasn't getting pulled in or reactive to it. I was just kind of sitting peacefully, delightfully, just watching in a kind of way of equanimity. So this ability to observe and watch and maybe be delighted, maybe be compassionate, maybe have a response that's situation appropriate because of our ability to have the overview and clear seeing of what's going on. Equanimity, factor of awakening. So one more talk on that tomorrow, and then we'll pick up the pace of these 16 steps of Anapanasati. So thank you all very much, and I do look forward to being together again tomorrow.